you all for being here today. I'll call this meeting to order. And may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Ms. Burgess,
Present.
Ms. Wheaton,
Present.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard,
Present.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood. Here. Dr. Morris,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Teresa,
Here.
Councilman Walker, and I'll call the advisory board members, Mr. Kane, Mr. Green,
Here.
Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Coon, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Summers. Here. Mr. Unthank, and Mayor Walker.
Okay, sorry. That will bring us to item 2, the adoption of our agenda. That can be found on pages 1 and 2 of our packet today. Is there a motion regarding our, well, I guess, are there any changes or updates to the agenda? Hearing and seeing none. Is there a motion regarding the agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you.
A second.
It's moved and properly seconded. We'll call the roll or any further discussion. Hearing and seeing none, we'll call the roll for the agenda.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Ms. Wheaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Ms. Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Teresa,
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
All right, that will bring us to item 3, our Midlands Transit Riders Association update. Is Mr. Durst on the line? Hi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wasn't going to bring anything before the board this morning, but then something came up
We are now out of
in regards to
we
the
are
planning
no
for
longer in executive session. Is there
Lucius
a
Road
motion
Super
regarding
Stop.
coming out of executive session?
So move.
Couple of
Moved and properly
suggestions that were
seconded. We'll take the vote to come
told
out of
to me
executive
today.
session.
Okay, Mr. Brennan,
One was
Yes.
to put in vending
Yes.
machines
Ms. Wheaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert.
at
Aye.
the Lucius Road Super
I'm
Stop
sorry.
and
Aye.
design it
Thank you.
much like the
Representative Howard,
rest areas at the
Mr.
interstate
Lawson,
where
Ms.
the
Moon,
vending machines could be locked
Dr.
up,
Morris,
but still
Mr. Smith?
available to the general public. And the other thing that I really don't put much stock in, but I'm just going to mention it anyway
Councilman
because
Walker.
a writer said
Motion
to me
carries.
this morning
Thank you.
that,
No action was taken
he
in
was
executive session.
given
Is there a
erroneous
motion regarding the
information
items
regarding
discussed in executive
when the
session?
buses
Yeah,
run
Madam
to
Chair,
the
I may
to
be
the
recognized.
Walmart in
Yes, Mr.
Harbison.
Walker.
Yes, I would
Um,
move,
He
move
was saying that he
we
called customer service and
authorize
they told him it would be
Mr.
there
Champs to
in 15
enter
minutes, and
into
then
the
he called back in
contract
15
pertaining to
minutes and they
transfer
said it was
as
already
discussed in executive
gone
session.
when he had been sitting there the whole time. I don't know
Second.
about that, but
And it's been
hopefully
moved and properly
the
seconded. Any
customer
further
service
discussion
people
on
can look
that
into that
motion?
and
Hearing
see
and
if that
seeing
is in
none,
fact true.
we will take the vote on
Okay,
that
that's it for
item.
me.
Mr.
Thanks.
Brennan.
Yes.
All right,
Ms. Burgess.
thank you so much
Ms. Wheaton.
for
Yes.
sharing
Ms.
that
Herbert.
information
Aye.
and for being the connection,
Representative
one of the
Howard.
connections between us and the
Mr.
riders.
Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
That'll bring
Dr.
us to item
Morris,
4,
Mr.
the call to
Smith.
the public. Do we have anyone
Ms.
signed
Teresa?
up
Yes.
to address the
Councilman
board?
Walker. No,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Okay, that'll bring us to item 5,
you.
our consent calendar.
No further motions.
5A
I believe
is
are
approval
coming,
of our February
are before
22nd,
us.
2023 board
So
member,
that brings us to
board
item
minutes,
10,
which is
found
adjournment.
on
Is
pages
there a
3 through
motion
8.
regarding adjournment?
Uh,
5B,
Second.
submission of
Properly
the
seconded.
invoice check
We can,
registers. Vote on
Aye.
adjournment.
Aye.
Acclamation.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for your
Thank
work
you
today.
so
Is there a
much.
motion regarding our consent calendar?
Madam Chair, I'd like to remove the minutes from the consent calendar just for one correction,
Okay.
please. And then I would approve, I would move that we approve the rest of the consent calendar. the correction, and I apologize to Pam for not catching this in the draft. But on page 7 of our packet, it says the following motions were made during executive session, and I think that's important to correct because it would have to be following executive session, and maybe add a comment that we made took no action within the executive session.
Thank you for catching that. A small change, but a very important one to keep us in alignment with staying legal. Is there a second regarding the consent calendar? Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on our consent items?
So we're approving it with
Well,
that
I guess
correction.
I think we can approve both of them with just that one change.
What motion, what
Um,
item was the correction?
Just for your page 7. See what it says. During executive session.
Oh,
Following. Yeah.
Are we okay to vote on 5A and B with the one change to the minutes? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
yes.
Ms. Wheaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Councilman Walker. Motion carries.
Thank you, and thanks to Ms. Mood for catching that item. That'll bring us to number 6, our discussion and action items. 6A is our on-time performance update. Mr. Cookie is on the line. Okay, thank you.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me here. So, anyway, I'd like to actually have a couple of recognitions that I'd like to point out, some good stuff here. So I'd like to let everyone know that our Employee of the Year was Mr. Kevin Settles. Some of you may remember that name because last year, I believe he did win Employee of the Month, but he is our 2022 Employee of the Year. So I'd like to say congratulations to him. Also, Mr. John Daly is our Employee of the Month for February. John works in our maintenance department, solid employee. Again, like to congratulate him as well. And also Mr. James Wheeler, who was nominated for TASC, which is the Transportation Association of South Carolina Operator of the Year. Now, we didn't bring that one home, but nevertheless, he's a good employee, and maybe next year we will, but I also just wanted to make sure I thank those individuals. Also, I wanted to just bring you up to date on the first part of the month. We had our state rodeo competition. Actually was held here in Columbia. In my understanding, it was the first time the Comet hosted that event. And transit agencies across the country actually participate in this event, really across America and Canada, really since the 1970s. And it's really an event that promotes safety, skill among transit operators and maintenance staff. So it's really, really big deal, in the transit industry. So I'd like to let you know, we did very, very well. I'm just so proud of all the people that participated and all the support. So we won first place in what we call our cutaway bus vehicles for which paratransit operates. So we won first place there, Mr. Keith Parker. I'd congratulate him. And now he'll move on to the national competition here in, I believe, in about 2 months or less. On our fixed route side, which is our 35-foot buses, we won first place. Mr. Philip Patterson, again, congratulations to him. So you can technically say we have 2 of the best drivers, or the best drivers in the state, winning first in those categories. We also won third place on our fixed route side, Ms. Satara Lopez, and she just really started competing. So very excited for her and her future in the competition. And we also placed third place on our maintenance team. Mr. Tim Goodwin, Clayton Odom, and Kobe Odom did a fine job competing on our maintenance side. So we had a super strong showing. again, congratulations to all of them, and also like to appreciate Madam Chair coming out to cheer on the contestants and cheer us to victory, as you might say. So again, I just wanted to make sure we get that in, and we appreciate and love competition. So, and also as far as on-time performance, we had our best month. You know, after we reconciled all the data, we had our best month since we started the project, which some time ago, which many of you will remember it, finishing at 78.43. So feel very confident about the direction we're headed. That's a pretty strong month. And, you know, I've seen over the last 2 weeks that we have hit 80 on a couple of different occasions. So we are really moving forward there and seeing, you know, those leaps forward in that area. We also saw a slight increase on our paratransit side as well. So overall, those things are going well, and I, you know, look for them to continue to go well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. And I will say that the rodeo was a really fun event. I've never been to anything quite like it. So I would hope that next year more board members can get out and see it. And I got a chance to meet some board members from other transit authorities and got to have some good conversations with them. So thank you for that report. 6B is the Lucius and River update. Mr. Harris. Hi.
Yes, I am here. Hey, thank you to the members of the committee. As of right now, the Lucius River Superstop through the service committee, they wanted to vet out and make sure that we did our due diligence by ensuring that we have the fleet available and the timing was properly aligned with implementation. And so again, we are going to implement the project into 3 phases. In the first phase, we originally were trying to plan for May, but because of, again, fleet issues and considering the timing to make sure we do provide proper public notice of said changes, we have decided to move that to September. So at this time, we're seeking board approval to proceed with the Lucius Road Superstop plan as discussed and as presented to the board in our previous meetings. And I'm not sure if Ms. Mood is on the meeting as well. I don't know if she wanted to add anything to the discussion that we had in the previous service committee meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Mood is nodding her head. So
I'm prepared to make a motion.
yes.
Okay.
Before I do that, I want to just make 2 comments on things that had come up in last month's discussion here. And in the service committee. One is the recognition of the need for restrooms and so we've been assured at the service committee meeting that the staff is exploring what the best options are for that. And I'm grateful that, you know, not that looking towards September gives us a little bit more time to have something in place to address that issue. That's one thing. And then I just have to say out loud how much I appreciate all those trees that got planted, because I was really distressed, as you might expect, that we had, you know, had clear cut a whole area. So look at the trees when you go by, because I'm happy to have those back, and so will our customers be when there's a place to some shade at the Superstop. Okay, so we're ready for a motion. The first motion is that the service changes and routes proposed in phase 1 to be implemented in September of 2023 be approved by the board to go out for public comment.
Is there a second? Do we need a second for that? Since it's coming
It's
from the committee. So I don't think it's just the committee's recommendation. Okay. Any discussion on that recommendation? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take the vote on that first motion.
Mr. Brennan? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ferguson.
Let's stay in order. That should come from service committee, not from Mr. Harris' report.
Right.
So
Oh,
we are out of
so
order.
So I mean,
We
I
could
wondered
wait.
whether to do it now in this agenda item or in the motions period or in the service committee report. There were a lot of options there.
we do, yes, we do have options for we can do that. And this does six is discussion and action items. And I think we can take a motion from a board member at this time.
No, you can't. That's Mr. Harris' report. It doesn't say anything about a board member. Board member 7, to do it under 7, you have to have it in the agenda. So she can make that recommendation from the service committee because she has an update.
Okay, Ms. Mood, do
I
you?
can make it whatever time on the agenda.
Okay, since we have options, we can just keep going with our reports and updates, and then we'll take motions at the next.
The second one, the only reason for doing it now was in case Eric needed to supply some explanation of, but not particularly on that one because the board is considered, but the next motion I had, people might have questions of that.
Okay. Mr. Harris, could you stay on through the motion period
Yes.
in case we have questions? Okay, during that time. Okay, let's move on to 6C, our mid-year budget review.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call your attention beginning at page 51. Hoping you all had time to review so you can flood me with those fabulous questions. It won't take too much time in going over it, but again, this is our mid-year budget review request. We have some items where we had to shift around, the dollars. So just coming aligned to what we see us finishing out the rest of the year. If you see that number in the negative, that either we decreased or did away with that line item. The overall change between where we were and where we're requesting is less than 1%. You look at the page 55, the very bottom, it's actually just shy of $33,000 down where we were requesting a change. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have by any particular line.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
And my request is to approve our mid-year budget.
Okay. This would be, so I guess this would be the same as in the previous update. We would need a motion from a board member to approve this.
Madam Chair, could we do that when we get down to motions?
Yes. So we'll hold that motion. Okay. Any further update? Anything further for your update? Okay, thank you. That'll bring us to item 6B, our blue bike contract. All right, Ms. Andrews, do you want to take that one? Or
Follow
Morris?
Dr. Morris's lead.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
since I've mentioned this blue back for over a year now, and the reason I keep bringing it up, John Andall, before he left, he anticipated killing that contract. I thought it was at 200,000, but I'm hearing now it's at 70,000, and we've never heard anybody say we get a benefit from it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Morris.
I remember the previous ED indicating that we were going to get rid of blue bike. Now, I asked in the finance committee meeting for Ms. Andrews, Mr. Deschamps to come back to the board and give us a report, brief report on how we are doing, how effective the blue buses and the costs. And I know they shared with me that it costs about $70,000 a year. I thought it was more than that, but that's good. And I understand that Blue Cross Blue Shield is funding most of it. So Ms. Andrews, if you will, would you please allude to that?
So I guess the overall program, the comment of the stations, the blue bike stations you see around town, the comment sponsors 8 of those. And in exchange for sponsorship, that's where we pay the $70,000 a year to be Wigan. And that allows people who utilize our bus to ride 2-hour time span on blue bikes for free. That this year is the last year for that contract. I know the city and Blue Cross Blue Shield are in talks of what to do, continuing with Blue Bite. I haven't heard anything where they're going, but I just want you guys to keep in mind that we did buy those stations with federal funds, and we have them down for a 10-year useful life. So
Say that again?
a 10-year useful life, meaning we have them on our books. We said they would last at least 10 years. We did this contract for 7. So we're trying to find, I have Michelle Ransom looking at how, what would happen if we got to year 5 and decided, because typically the feds want money back. So we don't like to give back, and they don't like for you to give back. Kind of, hey, you pay me back for this, then why are you changing? So we're still going to reach out to the city and Blue Cross to see what their plans are for Blue Light. But those stations that we have, they are ours. We have to see if somebody want to pick up that sponsorship for us. We'll have to go out and take all of our wrapping off of them. But and I hate to say, but if I had to give, there has been no usage. I know I said I would go back and see how much usage has been with our codes for the past year. It hadn't been any. So to honestly speak, that the benefit to the comment, the benefit to the public might be, we just got to get people that want to use their legs to get a little exercise. Maybe when it warm up, we see higher usage, but I know it was usage prior to COVID. COVID happened, people stopped using. I just don't think they've gotten back around to getting on the bikes and enjoying the fresh air.
Ms. Edwards, you said there have not been any usage of the bikes?
Not per our codes where we give them free. So I asked them to check where we give riderships. You have to get on our bus to get a code from a driver to put that code in and go. So that's the usage I checked in.
I would suggest that every month you bring a report to the board because the contract ends in December. And it's not benefiting us, then we need to retire.
Now so in terms of that, and I was gonna talk to you off, maybe if we can get away from doing the 70,000 and then pay per use, negotiate with Wigan or whoever the vendor will be, that we pay for anybody who uses one of our codes. That would be a cheaper route in going versus us paying just a 70,000 flat rate.
Ms. Mood wanted to speak to that.
I was just trying to understand better too. So that the bikes that we sponsor are at the transit center? Is that
We have 8 locations, not just at the transit
eight
center.
locations?
I
So,
know down at-
but because when I walk, like the river walks where they have bikes, you see people riding those a lot. So I was just wondering if our bikes are not in the most used spaces, whether we have any flexibility.
It's not by the bike, it's by the code. So those riders need to have boarded one of our buses and told the driver, hey, I want to go use Blue Bike. The driver gives them the code that they input to ride. So people may be utilizing them, they're just not utilizing
Not
them.
riding our buses and getting the code and then riding.
Correct.
So our anticipation of that being kind of the way that people get that last mile of their journey
Yes,
by riding a bike, with that connection is what's not being made.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So,
Ms. Mood, are you saying that they're using them on the other side of the river?
No, I'm not saying on the other side of the river. The river walk runs on both sides of the river, and I walk both sides of the river. But I just noticed people on blue bikes, and what I didn't know and understand was how it is that our. So, and then the other part of my question is, so the federal, we started that program on federal funds, and the federal funds are for 10 years. Is that what you said?
we got the federal funds to buy a bike station. You know how you buy something, you say, hey, like your
Yes.
warranty on your appliance, says it's supposed to last 5-6 years. That's what we said, hey, we bought these bike stations and we anticipate them lasting without needing replacement for 10 years.
And so we accepted the money on that basis?
Yes.
But Madam Chair,
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Burgess.
the reason I keep bringing up this financial stuff is that my community is gonna be the community that determines whether the penny is renewed or not renewed. I can't go back into my community, or nobody else can, and say if they benefit, my community benefited from the penny, a lot of bus routes and everything else. So we got maybe 4 years if this money lasts. So we should take that into account, that we should be really efficient with that penny going these 4 years, because we're gonna really have to convince people to renew it, even though they didn't get improved service. So that's all I can say about it. And when I will continue to say that we aren't efficient stewards of a penny.
Madam
Yes, Dr.
Chair,
Morris.
I did do what Mr. Purchase indicated, and I think all of us need to look at these dollars, because we predict by 2028, we're gonna exhaust that $301 million that we get from the city council, from the Risen Council. There are other areas that we're gonna bring up later on that we need to take a look at in terms of savings of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And my only question regarding that is that these are federal dollars that we spent. We indicated to the federal government that these stations were going to last. We would be using them for 10 years. If we don't use them for 10 years, is there some kind of clawback or something? Well, we have to pay back monies. Okay. And do you have a dollar amount associated with that in front of me? Okay, then I won't ask that question, but I just wanted to close that loop there.
I can
Okay.
get that for you to see
Okay.
if they'll, can give us
Right.
what might have to be paid back, but.
And while folks in the community don't necessarily know the difference between a penny dollar and a federal dollar, they see everything that we do as the comment. So, okay.
So Madam Chair, could I just add, I think Rosalind's suggestion about seeing if we can negotiate covering our riders who do want to use the bikes per usage rather than the flat rate for the whole, that makes good sense to me, because then we really are serving those people using the bus. So if that can just be something that's explored and the finance committee can look at.
Yes, especially as that time comes here. I see that Mr. Green has his hand up.
Yes, I had the same question that you had, Madam Chairman, about the federal dollars and how much money we would have to refund if we did not continue this program. Also, it would also be good, I think, for Mrs. Reed. I'm not 100% familiar with the total bike program, but if you can not now, but maybe in a document or something, lay out how they rent it and how much it costs, for the renter, and, and how they access that, if, just so we can have some knowledge of that, and maybe in the finance committee.
On the website? Okay.
No. For the finance committee members, how does someone go? It's my understanding, I think it's like, what is it? Is it like $15? Is it, it's X amount of dollars a day, right? That you have to, or extra dollars amount. You have to sign up for a subscription from Blue Cross Blue Shield, but we give it to you free for what? One ride?
45 minutes. Yes, so 45 minutes. It's 2 hours. We give out a 2-hour ride.
You give it a 2-hour ride? Okay.
Yes, and I'm not sure about the Blue Cross subscription, because that's separate from us. But if you get on our bus and get a code, it allows you to ride for 2 hours for free.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not sure, I'll admit that I was not sure that I knew that was a benefit, that if I rode the bus, I could get on the bike right off that. So yeah, if we look at that going forward, we may also want to make sure that we're communicating that a little bit more. I know we've got a lot of campaigns going, but maybe cycle that one through. All right, so I believe that takes us to item 7, which is our motion period. So we'll just go in order of the motions that we already know about and then open it up to others if needed. So Ms. Moon.
My first motion is that the service changes and routes proposed in phase 1 to be implemented in September of 2023 be approved by the board to go out for public comment.
And
Have a second on
I think we would need a second since it's, I don't know.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Fergus.
for some reason, that's out of order. I've attempted to make motions for several years under 7 and was told if it isn't on the agenda, we couldn't make a motion. So that motion has to come from her, from chairman of the service committee. And those motions has to be agenda. You do remember that, Dr. Marks? I'm doing that thing.
But this is the agenda item for the phase 1 related to the Lucius Road project. That we got that report, and this is out of that.
If that's on the agenda.
I believe there was also discussion of this at the last board meeting, so there's probably adequate, it's probably been adequately advertised to the public, but if the board would prefer this, you could make this motion out of the service committee report, and then it would be from the committee, which wouldn't need a second.
Madam Chair, I'd just like for us to be consistent, because we always loaded with lawyers, but it seems our procedures change according to who want to making the motion. Now, over a period of years, I've seen everything about our procedures change, a whim, even our bylaws, and I try to forget John Andol, but he's a hard person to forget because he single-handedly went through and rewrote everything that we got as laws, So I'm glad Ms. Baker is here. I was looking to see what all the stuff that we have any attorneys on board. See, the only thing about it, now, the reason I'm not complaining, but I'm saying if we don't follow procedures, it get bogged down other places. Now
Thank you, Mr. Fergus. Well, this item is germane to the meeting. We've already had an update on it. We are anticipating this motion. It doesn't really, I'm okay with it being under a service commit, a report from the service committee. Number 6 said action items, so I think we could have taken action under that one.
But Madam Chair, that was Mr. Harris' report. Mr. Harris can't make a motion to the board.
Correct, but we
So it
can
can't go
also,
under 6. No board members talking under 6. Those are all staff members. That's what it says, that it's a minor change.
Chair, are we in a hurry with this? Could we send this back to the service
No,
committee?
please don't send it back to the service committee because we've done everything we have to do with it. And we were ready to make a motion out of the service committee's work to the board. I mean, there's nothing more for the service committee to do on this. I'm sorry, you can hear, this is kind of disturbing to me, but here's the point. Our procedures are supposed to facilitate our work.
sure.
Now, I'm really open to making the motion at wherever on the agenda, but if at every point we reach on the agenda, there's an objection to the motion, doing a motion at that time, I think our own process is an obstacle to getting something done rather than
This is
facilitating.
What I'm
Ms.
saying.
Mood,
Yes.
Ms. Mood, would this be something that you discussed at the last service committee meeting?
Yes, we did. We discussed it at the board meeting. We followed up with the service committee meeting, at the service committee meeting. At the service committee meeting, we decided that we would make this recommendation to the board, and I came prepared to make the recommendation.
Thank you.
So, I think it would be more than appropriate if under item agenda 8A, if you wanted to make the recommendation when you give your report under the service committee, you could make it there. But I think it's appropriate for the motion to be made at this point as well.
Thank you.
But either way, I think it's been adequately noticed to the public and is legitimately on the agenda and is appropriate for a motion to be made.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Green, you have a hand up. Did you have that up from before, or did you have something for this?
No, I had that up from before. Sorry.
Okay,
Give me.
thank you. So as with the service committee motion, I believe we have another motion that would come from regarding the budget, and we'll do that under the, I'm sorry, under the Finance Committee update, if that's okay. Okay, are there any other items to consider under the motion period that are not related to committee report outs?
I have,
Okay,
I have two motions. I'm hesitate to do this, but here we go.
okay,
All right, one is not an action that the Service Committee has been, and so really I'm making this motion to get board's permission for the Service Committee to do something, which is part of what we have to do in terms of not taking on work on our own. Okay. So what I would move is that the board authorize the Service Committee and staff to explore with local jurisdictions possibilities for transit services to meet local needs, including sources of funding. And that's my motion. But this is to try to help us know how to work with local jurisdictions who have either lost service, like our board advisory member, Mr. Kane from Batesburg, Leesville, where we stopped the service there because of a low performing route, but that Batesburg, Leesville wants us to work with them on trying to develop a service that does meet their needs. I mean, we can't come up with any, I mean, we'd have to have a funding source. I mean, we're not talking about just a route that we would take on, but I'd like permission from the board, for the Service Committee and the staff to do some of this preliminary exploration with communities. A second one is the express route to Newberry, where we know that hasn't been low performing, and people have an interest in, is there a different way to do that? Have to come up with the funding for it. But I'm sensitive to Mr. Fergus's concerns, but I just don't want to, I just wanted to be sure that we have the board's blessing to do this kind of developmental explorations with local jurisdictions.
All right, Madam Chair,
yes, Mr. Burgess.
I'm glad we have the attorney here. Now, what Ms. Mood has asked us to do is in our intergovernmental agreement. So anything that Lexington County wants, the procedures to get it is stated verbatim in the intergovernmental agreement. Now, what Ms. Mood is asking us to do, we've voted twice at the board plus in the service committee to eliminate those non-performing routes.
I have a motion
So
on that,
now-
but we haven't gotten to it yet.
No, we voted twice to eliminate those two routes because the Newberry route had two riders. One of them got a job, so we got one rider. We've already voted to eliminate that.
Not at the
So-
board level. That's what we're bringing to
At
the
the last board meeting, we did do that. See, we can't, now, if the board want to supersede staff, then we should just write that in the staff duties. Everything Ms. Mood has asked you, staff can do anytime they want.
Oh, they
The
can.
ED can do that anytime he wanna, but Lexington has a procedure to get service. Not unless, and there's 5 politicians on the board. So the intergovernmental agreement should be abided by.
Okay, I got a question. Now, I was sitting, the other day I went to the doctor and I saw that Newberry bus come up. One person got on it. That other bus came up, it was one person got on it. And I was wondering, then I said, well, are they picking up somewhere else other than, now that was at the comment. Cause I came from the doctor. And I was there during the time it came up because I was waiting on 12. And I was just wondering, do they have more than just one rider that they pick up and bring in the morning? Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
I can speak to that in the service committee report.
That's
if you
all I
wanna
wanna
do
know.
that.
But I mean, my thing is just, we create procedures as we want to get something done rather than following our bylaws and records and regulations. I've seen them change over the years on a whim. We got an intergovernmental agreement that we don't even abide by. I'll say once again, not a board member we have know what's down here on Lucius Road. Nobody can tell, I'm vice chair, I can't tell you what's there. none of the planning I can tell you about that's down there. So, and that was done because we didn't follow procedures. See?
Thank you. I see Mr. Green has his hand up. Is that a new hand, Mr.
Yes,
Green?
that's a new hand. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I understand some of the concerns here and sensitive to the nature of the different counties working together to form a great system here. The issue that has taken over here is that the municipalities are no longer going through the county government in Lexington County. Lexington County has said that we now must negotiate with the Comet ourselves. So that's the intergovernmental, that was the current intergovernmental relation that we had, or agreement that we had, was with the county of Lexington. And Lexington County is no longer doing that. They have they are no longer going to be collecting funds from municipalities to give to the county, to give to the Comet. So that, I think that's one concern that Mrs. Mood has to start negotiating with the counties, or the cities versus the county here, because that's what's happening, is that there is no negotiating with the cities right now. The Comet is going through the county. But that's my comment.
Okay. I see another hand up, somebody who would like to speak to this. Yes.
Hey, how are you guys this morning?
Hi, thanks for joining in.
Yes, and I just wanted to comment on Ms. Mood's suggestion to the board. Batesburg-Leesville Council has set aside funds. We're targeting funds for a circulator type of service for Batesburg-Leesville. The Route 97 was supposed to be a demonstration route, and it really didn't serve the needs of the folks, and that's why we agreed to have it discontinued. So right now, we would like permission from the board to work with staff so that we can develop a system that works for our citizens. We're one of the largest growing communities in Lexington County, and we do plan to have a dedicated funding source for service. So we would definitely appreciate consideration in working with the staff to get that service up and running.
Thank you. And I feel like what I'm hearing is that a new piece of information from when we voted before regarding these routes is specifically a dedicated funding source. So that's just the piece of information that I'm picking up. Okay, and then Dr. Morris, I also, Debbie, is you're here, I don't want to call on you or anything, but yeah, I'm just learning about this, I guess, change in the way that the municipalities are no longer going through the county. Dr. Morris, is it okay if Ms. Summers speaks to that just a moment, since she is the representative from Lexington County?
Before you get to that, we should have Pam Baker or Franny speak to that, because any change there, our intergovernmental agreement is with Lexington County, not with municipalities in Lexington County. And it specifically states what happens if Lexington County pulls out of the intergovernmental agreement. So our attorney needs, so that may be not something we need for this open meeting. Maybe that's something we need.
Are you suggesting that might be an executive session item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I was gonna make a suggestion. First, I want to say that the motion died for like a second. And the second thing, I think our staff, along with the attorney, need to go to these municipalities, find out what they are asking for, whether it's buses and how they're gonna be funded, and then bring that back to this committee, this board, so we can make a decision based on facts.
See, even the Enabling Act that doesn't substantiate what we're hearing now. If Lexington pulls out from the intergovernmental agreement, that's just like Richland County you know, is in and they put, Richland County pulls out, we aren't talking to Hopkins or Eastover because the municipality with the vote isn't there anymore. See, so that need to be, maybe we're hearing something that even,
I see
I
Ms.
think-
Baker, yes, is off mute. Thank you.
I think that this is something that we can discuss. I don't know that there's been adequate notice to take a motion under this, under section 6 of the agenda. And I'm not sure that it's been noticed for us to take it up during executive session today, but perhaps the better solution is to properly agendize it for the next board meeting and have it discussed during executive session. And that way we can assure that all of the appropriate people that can provide substantive knowledge about this issue are present.
Okay,
And Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
may I just
Yes.
get a clarification?
sure.
Because really, all that I was trying to do here was to lay out what is the orderly process if a community wants bus service. How do they get help with even looking at what would be useful to them without our going out and doing something that the board says we didn't authorize you to do? So I was trying to get an orderly process, knowing that whatever conversations and exploration like we have with Mr. Kane, we have to bring that plan to the board, for the board to ask us to vet it through the service committee. All, you know, we have to be sure we have funding, then we bring it back to the board to approve. So, but it's not a reasonable expectation to say to a community like Batesburg, Leesville, design a bus system for your community and bring it to us to approve. I mean, they're asking our help for that. And I was just trying to lay out a process for how do we offer that assistance.
Okay.
Now,
I'm saying
my
we
understanding
didn't get that
about
help
the,
for Hopkins and
Thank
Eastover,
you.
give us the same.
I'm just gonna ask staff, do you all feel like you have something that, do you all feel like you have a kind of a protocol or procedure, you know, if someone makes a phone call, if you get a phone call from a community, you know, how, like, step 1, step 2, step 3, do you all feel like there's a good procedure protocol for that? And maybe that could be something that could be presented to remind us all, because not everybody has the full, has everything memorized and all the history of what we've done memorized. So is that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well,
is that out
you
of
know, I'll
order?
just speak from my standpoint as
Okay.
interim. If someone comes to me about a service, you know, I will collect whatever details that I want to, that I need to get a good understanding. But for me, to me, my next step would be to the board to look into it.
Okay.
And then from there, I would hope they would refer it to the committee to let it vet. But through the whole process, staff would be there to provide whatever information is needed. I just, in my position and the way I manage, I don't think it's left up to me to make that kind of decision. Now, some or another executive director may differ from that, but that's how I see it. Because I think that's how you get everybody involved from the beginning of, this is what we are looking at doing. And this is the process. And I think that's how I can keep the board, committee, and staff engaged through the process.
Thank you.
But Madam Chair, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say on it, maybe it needs a lawsuit in Richland County to get clarification on that intergovernmental agreement. You know, so maybe one of these civic organizations will file that suit to get us back on track on how we're supposed to be handling money. See, we didn't get off track until we hired a John Andel. We were on track until we put John Andel on staff. So if it takes a lawsuit, I'm quite sure some funding out there can get that done. Because Lexington County can't get rid of its municipalities and stay here with a vote on the board and say the municipalities are on their own. Lexington County controls their municipalities on the board. They've done that for the past 10 or 15 years.
Madam Chair, as I said before, and we've done this, like having the staff do the research with the attorney and bring it back to the board, and we make a decision based on that.
Thank you. I think that has been thoroughly discussed. Mr. Harris, I do see your hand up. Or did you mean to
Yeah.
have it? Okay.
Well, I did. I think Leroy actually answered the question pretty well. I was just adding, just from a planning perspective, if anyone brings service requests to our attention, for one, we want to understand their needs, what they're looking for, see whether or not we have a budget for it. And if not, then obviously we go through a series of different types of service agreements. But in the general setting, we'll take a look at that, the route or the service area, and see if we can tie it in any type of way, just to make sure that we're putting out the service in a, the most financially responsible way. That's typically the process. And the same is true anytime we're looking at bus stop amenities. We have a criteria that we like to meet in order to put out a bench versus a bus shelter, 12-foot versus 16-foot shelters, semi-seats, and so on and so forth. But we evaluate the performance at each of those locations. And sometimes you have to go out to the site and get public opinion, depending on who's the property owner or the neighborhood association, little things like that. But generally, we do receive much information from the person that is making a request. And from there, we try to observe the possible solutions for the request that was made.
Thanks for that update, Mr. Harris, but I appreciate the information. Okay, we are still in number 7. Are there, I just don't want to move forward. Are there any other motions during the motion
Yes.
period? Yes, Dr. Morris.
I move that we accept the midterm report that was presented by the finance.
So we're doing those from the finance, from the committee updates. So those motions will come during number 8. Okay.
All right, I have one more. I'm so sorry, but I have one more.
Okay, we'll try.
And this was out of a discussion at the service committee also, that what we recognize is that we are at a different point in the COVID pandemic. We keep an update on what's happening with our staff and with riders, and what the directives are from the guidance from the governor. But we discussed there that it's probably no longer needed that we have a special ad hoc committee for COVID, and that the work of that ad hoc committee is doing could just be folded into our ongoing service committee agenda. So I'm bringing to the board a motion that we absorb the ad hoc committee work into the regular service agenda, committee agenda, and not have a separate committee.
I don't know that needs a motion, because I think that the chair can name the committees. I'm looking.
So you can do away with the ad hoc committee.
I think I can just do that.
It'd be really good if we didn't have to have a
Okay.
motion.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Great, thanks for the confirmation. So thank you, Ms. Mood, for the suggestion and the reminder, and hopefully we are in a good place with COVID, that we don't have to
Well, I'll just remind you that we still are having over 1,800 positive cases a week, and we're still having, it's dropped. We have maybe 18 deaths instead of 40. It's still out there, but it's going to be something we live with forever, and so we just need to have an ongoing way to deal with it.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, that will move us to number 8, our progress reports. Says information only. Okay, so go there. The chair's report, I don't really have anything new to bring before the board. I have an idea that I'd like to socialize just around something fun for the board, but that doesn't need to be said here necessarily. Committee chairs updates. So Ms. Mood, the service committee.
So I'll go back to my original 2 motions.
Okay.
The first one is that the service changes and routes proposed in phase 1 to be implemented in September 2023 be approved by the board to go out for public comment.
Since that is a recommendation from a committee, it does not require a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right. Hearing and seeing none, I guess we probably got most of it out before. We will take the vote on that motion.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Ms. Bleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. And I believe there's at least one more.
There's a second motion that public notice be given for the following changes in low-performing routes identified in phase 1 to be implemented in May 2023. The first one is reduction of services in Route 44X by elimination of the 5 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. runs. The second one is discontinuing Route 93X in its current form.
Thank you for that. Any discussion on that recommendation from the service committee?
What is voted for?
That's the
Sumter.
Santee
Sumter.
Board.
What's 93, Ms. Moody? Is that by
That's the
Lexington
Newberry,
Hospital?
that's Newberry,
That's Newberry?
that's the Newberry Express.
Okay, which one go to by Lexington Hospital? Is that 91 still?
No, that's a different Lexington route. That's a regular route.
Okay, thank you.
It's still, that's not in this
Okay.
version.
All right.
And this is just for the notice. part.
And yes, we just have to give 30 days public notice if we're gonna make those
Change.
reductions in services.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. You've heard the motion and discussion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we will take the vote on that motion.
Okay, Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Bleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Mood, does that complete your updates?
It certainly does. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for your work on that. Dr. Morris, the Finance Committee update, please.
Yes. On the finance update, we discussed the midterm report that was presented to us, and I think it's a great report. And I would like to make a motion that we approve that report.
Thank you. Since that's coming from a committee, it does not require a second. Is there any discussion or questions on that? And hearing and seeing none, we'll take the vote on the motion to accept the midterm report.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Sorry, midterm budget.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Bleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Tracio,
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And I'm just seeing that there's a little red dot in the chat. I don't know if that's pertaining to anything, but did we? Okay, great. So we see that. Thank you for that request. We'll move on to the C, at the ad hoc committee for executive director search updates. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Just very briefly, this is the proposed contract from TransPro. TransPro is a search firm. I believe this body decided that to ensure that we put our best foot forward as far as attracting the best candidates for the ED position, that we would utilize a search firm. And so at our most recent meeting, the search firm TransPro presented this proposed contract. The board, the committee rather, we had the opportunity to peruse it, make changes and suggestions as well. And so the hope is that there will be a motion today that authorizes the interim director, interim ED rather, to enter into a contract with TransPro. I believe this item is also slated for executive session this afternoon, so a motion at this time probably wouldn't be appropriate. But upon, I guess, coming out of executive session, the hope would be that there's a motion forthcoming.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, for your work and for that update. That will move us to our executive staff updates. Mr. DeChamps.
Good afternoon to the board. You can find my report on page 104 and 105. A lot of some of the things that we've discussed today has been outlined, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We continue to address our staffing needs and continue to look for quality candidates to fill those positions. Also, too, we're currently still on schedule for our low-no admissions buses. So hopefully they're in production right now. And hopefully the delivery date of those are by the end of this calendar year. And the last thing, again, and I know Mr. Cooksey mentioned it about hosting the rodeo. Again, that's a big challenge, but again, as always, I always have something I think good to say at every board meeting about our staff, because it was a collective effort. When you host an event like that, for people all over the state, it has to include everyone. So that involved our line personnel, our janitor and laundry, landscaping, to our administrative operating staff. We can't say enough about our operators and how they compete and won. But again, I think it shows our commitment here to try to get it right every day. And I know we don't, but at least we try. And I think with us working together and trying to support each other, one success was the rodeo that we hosted this past month. So again, I just want to thank staff and everyone for stepping up and playing a role in that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that update. That will bring us to Ms. Andrews.
Hello. And to tag team off of what Leroy said, everyone was very impressed with how easy the rodeo flowed here. They actually finished ahead of time. They were wondering what we did different to make everything flow so smoothly. But again, it goes into good teamwork. We all get in and pitch in where we are. Thank you, Allison, for coming out. And as Allison has asked for some swag. So if any of you here want to get a little bit of comic gear, just let me know what you're interested in. Like Mr. Fergus is repping for us over there. Thank you very much. Anybody want a nice? Okay, so if you want some comic swag, let me know. We'll see if we can get that worked out for you. Also along the lines of staffing needs, I say we're still out there looking. Say we're dangling the bait and some nibble around, but we do have our new IT person back over here in the corner. Mr. Tyson Reed is here to help us out. He's going to be the internal IT person to replace Jeremy. So beyond that, what we do on a daily basis is listed and outlined on page 106. Any other questions? I'm here to.
I'm doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to see the board have something that we can all wear or have to really show our pride in serving on this board. So that will bring us to our Civil Rights Officer report. Dr. Prince.
Okay, good afternoon. The report is found on page 107 through 112, and it reflects the regulatory compliance and the DBE information. And I won't go over what's in the report, but just also want to share that I thank you for attending the TAF legislative reception. And I guess I want to say that thank you because I serve on the board of directors for TAF as the agency representative. During the event, they had a re-election. They had election of new officers, so I was selected to serve on the board for another 2-year term. And during the election of officers, I was selected to serve as the secretary.
Very congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we're very proud to have one of our very own in such a place. So, and it was, and I'll just speak, Rep. Howard was there as well, and it was a very nice reception.
And also, and 2 other things I want to share, I guess, before I close out my report. Just going over the DBE utilization part of the report. On pages 109 through 110 is the overall agency goal, and reflects we're at 26.1%. And I was asked by Mr. Lawson to add a column in the report to reflect the contract term that's listed, and that information is included in the report. And he just wanted to make sure that we are looking at the determination dates to make sure they don't lapse. So that information is there. And also when it comes to pages 111 through 112, that's RATP DAP utilization information. And currently, well, as of January 31st, they were at 23.4%. And I'm continuing to monitor their utilization use.
Okay. Thank you for that. Does that complete your report?
Yes.
Wonderful. And public information, Ms. Bynner Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. My report is found on pages 113 through 115. I'd like the board to know that our staff recently was interviewed by members of the Transportation Research Board out of Washington, D.C. regarding transportation equity practices during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it will go in one of their research papers. The Common Academy, which is that 5-week program where people learn all about public transportation, started this month for the spring 2023 session. We have 8 members of the community that are engaged in that. They'll be actually going on a bus ride on this coming Monday. Also upcoming is 2 Soda Cap events. Putt with Pop during Masters Week. That's where we take people on a ride on Soda Cap and drop them off at different restaurants along the way. And this time we're going Main Street, Historic Columbia, and 5 Points. And also we're going to have Soda Cap at Soda City Market the first Saturday of each month, with the exception of April. We're doing it on April 8th. So we will be doing that. Then I also want to, Ms. Summers brought in a resolution that was made in October from Lexington County, signifying October 16th as Catch the Comet Day, and we thank you for that. The other municipalities have their declarations also, so we'll put those all in one place. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was very proud to get to see you all at 5 Points for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
The weather's getting warmer. So we're out and about.
Yeah, it was
nice. It wasn't as crowded as it's normally, has been in the past, but it was really relaxing and it was really great. I thought it was great.
good, yes. I sometimes think it's too chilly and rainy on St. Patrick's Day parade day, so it was a pretty good weather. That will bring us to item 9, our executive session. So 9A is a legal contractual personnel item. 9A1, discussion of contract review relating to the provision of services to CMRTA with Transpro Consulting. And 9A2 is discussion of contract review relating to the provision of services to CMRTA, next in Pruitt. And then 9B is under pursuant to section 30-4-70A5, discussion of matters relating to the proposed location, expansion, or provision of services, encouraging location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body. Is there a motion regarding executive session?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. We'll take the vote to go into executive session.
Hey, Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Persian.
Yes.
Ms. Layton.
Yes.
Ms. Herbert.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Mr. Lawson. Ms. Moon.
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gracio.
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
Yes.
We are now out of, we are no longer in executive session. Is there a motion regarding coming out of executive session?
So moved.
So move.
Moved and properly seconded. We'll take the vote to come out of executive session.
Okay, Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Ms. Layton.
Yes.
Ms. Herbert.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Representative Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Morris, Mr. Smith,
He left.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Oh,
thank you. Ms. Tracio,
yes,
Councilman Walker,
Yes.
motion carries.
thank you. No action was taken in executive session. Is there a motion regarding the items discussed in executive session?
Madam Chair, if I may be recognized.
Yes, Mr. Walker.
Yes, I would move that, we authorize Mr. Deschamps to enter into the contract pertaining to TransPro as discussed in executive session.
Thank you. Second. Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, we will take the vote on that item.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Ms. Gleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Aye.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, Ms. Moon,
Yes.
Dr. Morris, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio,
Yes.
Councilman Walker.
Yes.
Carries.
Okay, thank you. No further motions, I believe are coming, are before us. So that brings us to item 10, which is adjournment. Is there a motion regarding adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. We can vote on
Aye.
adjournment by
Aye.
acclamation. Yes, thank you all so much for your
Thank
work
you so
today.
much.